Okay, hello everybody, and welcome back. Thank you for joining me again. And again, I really hope that these videos are helping some of you out there to just take a little bit more charge of yourself and of what you do. So again, I need to remind myself these things at the beginning. If you do like these videos, if you do like this content, if you feel that it's useful, you can click the buttons and do the things, so you'll know when new videos go up and all of that. Okay. What else did I want to cover before I wanted to start? No, I think that's about it. All right. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about the ego. So I don't know if you guys have noticed, but this entire series of videos, I'm giving everybody the tools that I ended up using in my own life. And it's made massive differences for me as well. And there's a bit of a logical flow to it, right? So initially we talked about consciousness, we talked about the Jungian personality archetypes, and now we are talking about the ego. Now, there are many very intelligent people out there that have written books and books and books about the ego. But that's not the point of what I try to achieve with this channel. What I'm trying to achieve is to take these huge concepts and to just break them down into small, consumable, understandable pieces, which will then help, hopefully help people to achieve different things in their lives. Okay. So when we talk about ego, there's quite a few different ways to look at ego. Most people are under the misconception that ego equals pride, right? So this person, they have a massive ego, so they are very prideful, right? But that's not actually what the ego is. Now, we spoke about Carl Jung and the personality types, and we also touched on the fact that Carl Jung was a student of Sigmund Freud back in the day. So Sigmund Freud did a lot of work when it came to the ego and the role that it plays. Now, the way Sigmund Freud saw this is that each person is born with what he called the ID, so essentially that inherent identity, and then the ego would come in, and then later on the superego would come in, and that together would essentially form the person, okay, into what they are. The way I would like to talk about the ego is more a like a concept of self, right? So it answers the question, who am I? All right. So when I ask the question, who am I? Then typically that would relate to who am I as a person, as an individual, but what do I like typically? What do I do? And this kind of image that I have of myself within my own mind, and I act accordingly. And this has a massive influence on the personality that I exhibit out into the world. Okay. Now, when we talk about the ego, the best way to explain the ego is to just take a little bit of a look at the brain, right? So the brain, I like to say, is an optimization engine. Okay. So it takes things, and then it does all these little algorithms, and it figures things out, and it creates these neural pathways, right, to help us automate things in life. Now, you've heard about the concept muscle memory quite a lot. It's relevant for almost everything that we do. So imagine yourself, if you haven't driven a car yet, you're going to go through this. If you are where I am, when you started learning how to drive a car, that was maybe quite some time ago. But when you get into a car for the very first time, and you need to start driving this car, right? Now, if you're driving stick, it's even worse. And you need to start driving this car. You need to turn the ignition, and okay, everything is good. And then you need to step in the clutch. You need to move to your first gear. You need to release the levers at a certain speed and pace. And then, of course, you need to control the speed as you move forward. And then as we are driving, there's this whole plethora of things that we need to do, right? So we need to use the indicators, we need to use the wipers if it's raining, we need to do all these kinds of things. So the first time you get into a car and you start learning how to do these things, it is super overwhelming. Your brain is struggling to remember everything that it needs to do, okay? And as you are driving now, you panic, you're in this zone, and you're thinking, okay, what do I need to do? So indicator. So everything that you do is a thought. You need to first construct a thought. Okay, I want to turn. What does this mean? It means I need to switch on the indicator. It then means I need to step in the clutch, down gear the vehicle, blah, 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 blah. So there's all these little things that happen. But what the brain does, and it's very efficient at doing that, is it then realizes very quickly that, okay, every time before I hit the brake, I need to hit the clutch first and I need to brake, right? If I'm going to stop. Every time I want to change a gear, I need to hit the clutch first and then I change the gear. So it realizes that there's these patterns in what we are doing. And so upon identifying these patterns, it will then go and create these neural links. It'll create this muscle memory response. So it's these automated things that start happening, and suddenly your brain can calm down, it can relax, right? And now we are more focused on keeping safe distance. We are more focused on how much do we need to turn and all those kinds of things. So a lot of what we do in our life becomes these automated processes, right? So if you think about your own life and all the things that you need to do actively, you have so many things that just happens automatically. If you enjoy playing games on a PC or something like that, initially you struggle to find the movement buttons, your WASDs, and control everything with the mouse. Then at a later stage, a week after you started doing this, you realize that everything is automated, right? Same thing if you pick up a controller, the same thing for most things in life, right? Your brain creates these optimized flows of things that need to happen, or it starts automating things. So if I want to go forward, my brain already knows what it needs to do, so I don't have to actively think on it. Now, the ego is very much the same way. If you go through certain events in life, if you go through certain traumas, if you go through certain life-changing situations, the brain kind of wants to start constructing its own narrative. It wants to write its own little algorithms, its own code, and it wants to start building things and putting things in place. So, for example, if you wear a pink shirt and you go to school with that pink shirt and you're a guy, and a lot of children suddenly, they just start making fun of you for your pink shirt, okay, which we know children are savages sometimes. What is going to happen is your brain is immediately going to create a connection. It's going to say pink shirt and school equals bad. And the next time, before you put on you automatically just put on the pink shirt because it's your favorite shirt and you want to go to school, what's going to happen? The brain is going to kick in and it's going to say, whoa, do you remember what happened last time? Okay, we are not doing that again. So your brain kind of feeds into this positive negative response. Whenever I do something that gets positive response from the outside world, it says, good, that is good, we need to continue doing this. Whenever your brain gets negative feedback from the outside world, it's starting to tell itself, whoa, okay, we are not doing these things anymore. And for whatever reason, the reasons become irrelevant, believe it or not. But now that is something that's been constructed in your brain, right? It's taken pink shirt and school, puts it in a box is labeled bad. It then take extra money to school so I can buy sweets for everybody, put it in a box, mark it as good. So as you can see, your brain then goes and it takes all of these instances, these memories, these emotional responses that we had, which essentially feeds in from the outside world, and it starts labeling them, it starts categorizing them and putting them all neatly into boxes. And there's boxes with good responses, and those are the things that we actively do. And then there are boxes that got bad responses, which are things that we just don't want to do anymore. Okay. And this is at a very young age, this starts building up, this categorization of things, figuring out, okay, this got negative responses, this got positive responses. And it even goes a little bit further. So when it comes to basic human beings, we actually use social interactions to sanity check ourselves. All right. For example, if you walk down the road and somebody has a dog, right? And you turn to the person next to you and they say, oh, look at that very cute and adorable dog. And they look at you and they say, yeah, you're right. That is a super cute and, amazing dog. Then you get that validation that what I just said, what I did, is good, right? Because it got good responses. If somebody walks past there and you just lose your mind and you say, you know what, that is a very cute dog, but I think, he will do amazing in dog fighting rings, for example. And the person next to you turns to you and they say, what is wrong with you? That is the most, it's savage. Why would anybody ever do that? Now, suddenly again, we get sanity checked by those around us. And we now know that, okay, that is bad. We should not be saying these kinds of things, because if we do, it's going to end negatively for us. So we go through this process from a very young age and then even into our adult lives, right? So whenever you do extra effort at work, for example, and your boss congratulates you and they say, thank you so much, you are so dedicated and loyal, you know that, okay, cool, this is a default setting that from now on, I'm going to want this because I'm getting that good responses, that positive responses. And when you come in late for work and, your boss goes off on you and they scream at you, what the hell is wrong with you? Why are you late? That, again, goes into the negative response category. So this is not just something that happens when we are young, when we are children. This is something that happens actively during our lives, from when we started up to the point where we are now, right? So wherever you are in life now, if you're still in school, up to that point, if you're 60 years old, up to that point. And what happens is our brain starts to categorize all these different things. And the net effect of that, so the overall thing that happens is in our minds, we start building this framework for ourselves, right? All the positive feedback, everything that gave us positive feedback exists within this framework. And everything that gave us bad feedback, we shove outside of this framework. Okay. And then this framework begins to form the paradigm through which we start making our decisions in life. Okay. So it's not just that we are seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. We are actively building this construct from within. We live and we make decisions and we express ourselves. And then it becomes a bit more at the end of the day. We then also start constructing an image of ourselves. Okay, how do we see ourselves? What are the things that we do? What are the things that we say? What are the things that we typically engage in, right? And we kind of have a picture in our mind of what that is. And you see it in a social group, right? So within one social group, you will have the cap guy, right? The guy always wears caps. He buys new caps. He invests his savings into caps, right? Because he's just the cap guy. You've got the t-shirt guy. So he focuses a lot on t-shirts. He always tries to have new and cool and interesting t-shirts. You've got the brand new shoes guy. You've got all these weird little things that start popping up on strange things that people use to identify themselves with, right? So when they say, okay, in your group of friends, who is the loud one? And then there's somebody that says, no, I'm the loud one. That's me. And then they'll say, who's the one that takes the most risks? And there's someone else, you see. And what happens is that we generate this construct from where we live our lives. And within this construct, we put things in place that we think makes us unique, and it's a unique identifier for us. And so we will stand out. So we will be different. So we will be seen. And we construct this image of ourselves. And a fascinating thing, when you ask people the question, who are you? You will find that 99% of people will answer with what they do for a living. Okay, what's their job or what is their career? What is their current situation? Another thing that they will answer you with is what do they like? What do they do? Okay, what are their preferences and things? But never truly who they are. And that's because that's the ego, right? It's this construct that we have of what we like, what we listen to, what we eat, what we do. You've heard car guys, right? They swear by certain types of cars. Now, they might have their reasons to do so, but it's part of the ego. Because in his mind, I am this kind of car guy. And that's that. So everybody does this. And I think it was Oh, who said it? I think it was Carl Jung or Sigmund Freud, one of the two. He actually said that most people spend half of their lives building up a healthy ego, and then the second half of their lives to try and break it back down, right? But that's what the ego is. So the ego is this construct that we have, that we've built, through which we identify ourselves. Okay. And it's never truly who we are. It's more what we like and what we do. And even myself, I was that way for a very long time. I thought, okay, I'm a metalhead, or I'm a punk rocker, or I'm a this thing, I'm a that thing, right? There was a phase where all of my friends and I, we liked skateboarding, right? Or rollerblading. So we were skateboarders or rollerbladers or whatever. So we evolve through these different categories, and we categorize ourselves that way, and we make decisions based off of how we see ourselves. Until a couple of years ago, when I finally started realizing that something is amiss. Something isn't right. I feel like I'm missing out on things, right? And I don't know why. I can't understand why. I don't know why I am reacting so negatively to certain things, and I go default settings after other things. It made no sense. So I then started looking at all of these different things, and through the study of this, I started realizing that, oh my goodness, right? The ego that we construct, it is important because it helps us understand who we are. It helps us define a space in this world for ourselves. But at the same time, it is incredibly limiting, right? We are essentially cutting off 60% of our potential, of what we can be, of what we can do, of what we can achieve, just because we don't see ourselves in alignment with certain things, right? And this is something that I started calling mental prisons. We construct all of these different categories in our minds so that we can start understanding who we are, and so that we can start getting a better feeling for all of that. But at the same time, they are technically just all of these mental prisons that we are building. And instead of being this inquisitive, curious human being that wants to just learn about everything there is to learn about, right? That is open to possibility, that indulges in life and the experience of life. We cut off 80% of everything that's out there purely because it's not what we identify with. It's not what we see, right? And I've always said I don't like categorizing things, right? So what kind of music do you listen to? Music, right? Does everything resonate with me and make me feel happy and shiny inside? No. All right. But I refuse to decide just I like this or I don't like this anymore, because you need to leave space in your life so you can still actually make decisions. And you essentially deny yourself the opportunity to make decisions, right? Because if you say, I am a punk rocker, that is what I like, that's my jam, that's my music, you will never experience anything outside of that spectrum, right? So we are not finding ways to identify ourselves anymore. And this is something you will realize after over a period of time. It's no longer like, okay, I need to identify myself as something. It becomes this limiting belief system that I've constructed for myself. And I just will not go and do anything outside of that. So when we talk about the ego, I think for a child, right, through a teenager phase, I think ego is important, right? You have to have it because you need to start gaining an understanding of your place within this world. Okay. But I think after that, when you get to your 20s, the moment you step, you start working your way into the adult life, the moment you start saying, okay, I'm no longer a child, I am now an adult, then you need to start reassessing. And you need to start asking yourself, okay, this is who I believed I was, but I'm entering a new phase of life. And a lot of people will call that like the rites of adulthood, right? Is you need to start re-questioning and you need to start redefining. And you need to understand that instead of just defaulting into certain directions or defaulting to certain decisions, you are given this free will, okay, to do with what you choose. and the ability to critically think, right? So you should be making decisions whenever options present themselves for you, and you shouldn't allow yourself to just default after things anymore, because you are now at that age where you understand cause and effect, or decision versus consequence, right? So you should actually now reach a point in life where you say, look, I understand that a lot of who I am was designed as a survival mechanism to make it through childhood, to make it through school, especially high school, because you need to survive these things. And that's what it does, right? It helps you survive. It helps you find a group of people that you feel comfortable with, and then you copy a lot of their characteristics, and you put it into yourself, and you make that your framework so that you can survive. But now that you're no longer in survival mode, these are things that we need to start breaking down, right? And it's been one of the things that I've been doing a lot, is to actively find these little mental prisons that I have constructed for myself, and to start breaking them down one by one, so that I no longer am a slave of my own convictions. I'm no longer just defaulting in life, but rather I am utilizing my ability as a thinking animal, right? To actively decide what is the best decision for each and every individual scenario. Okay. So, yes, that's ego. The important part behind ego is that, yes, it will develop naturally, right? It will grow with you. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with still identifying with certain groups of people. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. One of your greatest life passions might be bowling, right? So if you identify with a group of bowlers and it makes you happy and it's not limiting you in your own life, then go for it, right? We're not saying everything needs to just die and you need to be this empty vessel, right? But what we are saying is anything. And this is a lot of work to do, and this is something I'll cover in the next video. It's called shadow work. But there's a lot of work we need to do where we actively start analyzing this construct that we've built, and all the little, myriad rooms and chambers and things that we've built into it, and all the boxes we have there. And we need to open those boxes, and we need to decide, look, does this serve me or does it not serve me? And if it's not serving you, or if it's limiting you in your life, that is a mental prison. And that is something that we need to address and that we need to work through. And we'll talk about it in the next video when we talk about shadow work, which I think is the next step. So if you look at the series of videos we've got, just looking at creation, essentially a theory of creation, but more importantly, how do we create things in our own lives, which is also known as manifestation. We've looked at consciousness and how does consciousness work. We've then looked at the Jungian personality types, and now tonight we've discussed a bit about ego. And what's fascinating about ego is, now that you know the Jungian personality types, if you analyze your own ego, essentially the construct you've made of yourself and how you view yourself, you will start understanding why you are showcasing different pieces of the personality types, because your ego is a heavy overtone onto those personality types. And then we actually have the ability to choose, to say, you know what, I might be this personality type, but it feels conflicting within me. So, okay, what is in my ego that is causing me to flow into that personality type? And let's identify those little things and let's start breaking them down, because they are no longer serving us. And that actually, as you do this work, you will find that you are no longer in one of those categories, or maybe two. You will start seeing yourself in all of those categories, because we are no longer limiting our own beliefs. We are no longer limiting our own potential. All right, so there we go. I hope this helps. Again, guys, I'm not trying to teach you massive scientific principles. I don't think it's necessary. I think in the journey of self-discovery, in the journey of our own spirituality, in the journey of just becoming better human beings and freeing ourselves from all the limiting beliefs that we have, this is something that we need to address, and it's something we need to talk about, because it is a biggie. Once we can gain control of this, And we can do that through self-analysis. We can do this through shadow work. We will gain wisdom. And as we gain wisdom, again, we will evolve and we will become more and more enlightened. Believe it or not, but 90% of your spiritual journey at the start starts with self-analysis, starts with breaking all of your mental prisons to make you the person that has the potential to actually go and to carry those things further in life. Okay, that's going to be it from me. Thank you very much for watching. I truly hope that this is useful and it makes you think. And maybe you can start this little journey of looking, inward to yourself, and trying to, evolve and become just more potential, more glorious, more fantastic, more everything. All right, that's going to be it from me. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.